All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're taking a look inside Active Directory's, let's call it, its executive team. There are these 5 highly specialized roles, the FSMO roles, that are in charge of all the really critical stuff. We're going to meet the whole team and their incredibly helpful assistant, the global catalog. So let me ask you this. In a typical Active Directory setup, most of your servers, your domain controllers can make changes. It's a multi-master system. But if everybody can be a boss, how do you keep things from turning into total chaos? Who actually gets the final say on the big decisions? Well, that's where this specialist team comes in. They're called the FSMO roles, which is short for Flexible Single Master Operations. And here's the key idea. For 5 very specific, very sensitive jobs, only one server in the whole network gets to be in charge. This is how you prevent conflicts and keep everything running smoothly. And this team isn't a flat structure either. You can really think of it in 2 tiers. You've got your forest-level executives who are making decisions for the entire company, the whole forest. And then you have your domain-level managers, and each one of them is busy running the day-to-day for their own specific department or domain. So let's start at the very top with the C-suite. These are the 2 roles that have a forest-wide scope. Any decision they make affects every single domain in your Active Directory. First up, let's meet the chief architect of our AD Incorporated. This role is all about the foundational blueprint of the entire directory. Its official title is the Schema Master, and trust me, this is a big one. The schema is literally the blueprint for everything. It defines what can exist, like users, computers, groups, and what properties they can have. The Schema Master is the one and only guardian of that blueprint. So what does that look like in the real world? Well, let's say HR wants to add a new employee ID field to every single user account in the company. That change has to go through the Schema Master. You might only touch this role once or twice a year, but when you do, you better be careful because it is absolutely critical. Next up on our executive team is the head of corporate expansion. This role is all about growth, mergers, and managing the overall structure of the company. And that job title pretty much perfectly describes its official name, the Domain Naming Master. This server is the ultimate gatekeeper. It's the only one that has the authority to add a new domain to your forest or get rid of an old one. It makes sure every domain has a unique name and everything fits together. So, if your company, we'll call it contoso.com, decides to open a new East Coast office and needs a new east.contoso.com domain, you can't just spin it up. The request has to go to the Domain Naming Master. It's the only one that can give that expansion the green light. Okay, so we've met the execs. Now let's move down the hall to meet the managers who are running the individual departments, or domains. These next 3 roles are in the trenches, handling the essential, high-volume work inside their own domain. Our first manager is kind of like the person who runs the ID badge office. Every single person, every single computer needs a totally unique ID number, and this role's job is to make sure there are never, ever any duplicates. Officially, this is the RID Master, which stands for Relative ID Master. See, every object in Active Directory gets a unique security ID, or SID. The RID Master's job is to hand out big batches of these unique IDs to all the other domain controllers in its domain so they can create new accounts without bumping into each other. And here's why that's so important. If your RID master goes down, the other domain controllers will eventually just run out of the ID numbers they were given. And when that happens, that's it. No more new users, no new computers, no new groups in that domain. Creation just stops. Next up, we have what is probably the busiest manager in any domain. This is your head of HR and security all rolled into one, and it is juggling a ton of critical, time-sensitive tasks every single second. This is the PDC Emulator. It's the absolute authority on password changes. It's the official timekeeper for the entire domain, and it's the final judge on account lockouts. The name's a bit of a throwback to the old days, but its job is about as modern and vital as it gets. Now, for anyone working in Level 2 support, this is the role you're dealing with constantly, whether you realize it or not. When a user changes their password, it hits the PDC Emulator first for immediate verification. All the computer clocks in your domain, they're synced to this server. A user gets locked out after too many bad passwords? Yep, the PDC Emulator is the one that makes that final call. And our final manager is the interdepartmental liaison. This role is all about communication, making sure different departments or domains are able to work together smoothly. This is the infrastructure master. Its main job is to keep track of objects that cross domain boundaries. So, for example, if a user from the sales domain gets added to a group in the marketing domain, the infrastructure master is the one that updates that reference to keep it all consistent. It's not super busy in a single domain setup, but in a big, multi-domain forest, it's essential. So, we've met the team, we know what they do, but what happens when one of these specialists suddenly isn't there? What's the emergency protocol when a critical role holder just goes offline for good? I mean, this is the scenario that keeps system admins up at night, right? What happens if the server holding a critical role, like your PDC emulator, has a catastrophic failure? It's gone. It is not coming back. What do you do? Well, you can't just sit around and wait. The business depends on these functions. You have to take action. You have to perform an emergency promotion and move that role to a healthy server, and you have to do it fast. This process is called seizing a role. And I want you to pay attention to that word, seizing. It's a forceful transfer. This isn't a friendly handover. This is an absolute last resort. And here's the most important part. The original server can never, ever be brought back online after its role has been seized. The process has to be super methodical. First, you have to be 100% sure the original server is dead and gone. Second, you confirm there's no way to recover it. Third, you get on the command line and you forcibly seize that role, assigning it to a healthy domain controller. And finally, you document everything, because this is a massive change to your environment. Okay, we've covered our 5 specialists. Now, let's talk about their incredibly powerful assistant, the key to finding information quickly across the entire company, the global catalog. So, a global catalog server is a special kind of domain controller. It holds a complete writable copy of everything in its own domain, just like any other DC. But, and this is the magic part, it also holds a partial read-only copy of every single object from every other domain in the entire forest. It's like a universal phone book. And this makes all the difference. Imagine this. Without a global catalog, if a user in your Boston office needs to find a user in the Chicago office, their local server has to send a query all the way across the network to a Chicago server. It works, but it's slow. Now, with a global catalog, the Boston server just looks at its local copy, its local phone book, and finds the basic info for the Chicago user almost instantly. This is huge for fast logons and quick searches. So there you have it. We've met the entire executive team, the architect, the expansion expert, the resource manager, the head of HR, and the liaison, all supported by that amazing global catalog. Now that you know what they each do, here's a question for you. Which role failure would you be the most afraid of and why? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.